So, I wanted to discuss about the expansion, which is Dragonflight, and I wanted to do a retrospective, a critique, a review of the expansion as a PvPer. I want to say that a lot of big discussions currently are saying that Dragonflight is not a good expansion, or like still not on par with Mist of Pandaria, which I find a bit odd. I think Dragonflight, and it's a big spoiler, but I'm going to give you a few of my opinions. I think Dragonflight is a exceptional expansion, and I do think War Within will build even more upon the base that Dragonflight has built. You have to remember that Shadowlands, everything that we had from Shadowlands got pretty much nullified in Dragonflight because they just wanted to have a fresh base where systems would not interfere with PvP or even raids or even Mythic Plus, which they actually did. I think in Dragonflight you can barely do anything in the world and still be relevant in your raiding, in your Mythic Plus, but also in your PvP experience. The only thing you need in PvP basically is farm honor or buy the auction house set, which is a bit less good compared to the PvP set from the honor, but at least you have something. And you try to farm honor, and then you have to farm conquest. Conquest has been kind of slow to farm sometimes, but I think they are still on a much faster speed than compared to previous expansions. We still have vendors, which is and came back in Shadowlands, so they did keep that. You have now solo shuffle, which is solo queue, which it was not present in Shadowlands except for a beta test. The same we have for solo queue RPG, which is Battleground Blitz, which is going to come out in War Within. So they're going to build upon the base that we have and go a step further into the possibility to have the greatest expansion for PvP, which could be War Within. We had a much faster cadence of balancing, which is great. So the time between patches were very close to each other until a certain point into season 3, where basically they decided to put a halt on balancing for the uh, raiding event or Mythic Plus event and the AWC. So they decided to wait for the final to be done and then do a patch, which they did a week after it was done. And they actually decided to do that because they didn't really want to hamper on the integrity of the scene, which I find dumb. And I already made a video about it. Um, and yeah, I think you should never like balance around pro play just for the sake of pro play being 0.001% of the player base. Um, or you could easily have a second patch which is running on a tournament server like they do on League of Legends, and you have the patch live on the live servers. For example, League of Legends, they might make a patch a week before, like ESL, for example. No, not ESL, but LCS. And they will play on the patch from before. So it would be 14.1. They made a patch for 14.2, but for that week, the players are still playing 14.1. So they are not like disadvantaged, which I understand. And the week after would be fixed, for example, because it is a weekly show until the playoffs and such. And World of Warcraft, they could easily have done that. It is a bit of work to have a second version and every time have like a backup patch, but I think they should have done that because a lot of this came with a bitter like taste in our mouths, and we did really feel abandoned on that period. But even with that, season 1 had huge balancing, season 2 had huge balancing, season 3 had no to little balancing, and then season 4 unfortunately has no to little balancing. I think they did drop the ball though, even though I think Dragonflight is probably my top two or top three maybe best expansions for PvP. I think in the recent years, if you count from Legion and onwards, it is definitely the best PvP expansion. And you're going to say, whoa, what a comparison. Comparing the worst patches or worst expansions with the best expansion. Yeah, obviously, the comparison, you don't really compare the best with the best. If I have to compare with Mist of Pandaria, I guess it would not be that bad. I think Mist of Pandaria had a great gameplay loop. I do feel like people misremember a lot of things. It was busted, like every single class was OP. And yes, we can say that if every single class is OP, nothing is OP. But sometimes you do feel like some things are happening to you which are unfair and you didn't really have any counterplay to it. And you can also inflict the same to the other players. Beast of Pandaria is a fantastic expansion. It does not need to be fair every single time. And if every single class can do that, that means that you have your time to shine, I guess. But Dragonflight, balancing wise, it has been a really balanced expansion. I just feel like yes, they did mistakes. In Dragonflight, there are classes and specs really forgotten by the balancing team or the design team. Mostly design team. Again, for me, balancing is something that will change up and down. It is something that gets better over time, but also can get worse over time for you as a spec or a class. But the design, that's something that is laid out for patches and maybe even expansions. And I feel like Frost Decay, they got like really the short end of the stick. I think Enhancement Shaman got the short end of the stick. I think even Shadow Priest with like 3 reworks in 3 seasons. Maybe I'm exaggerating, but it does feel like that. Um, it feels also not really great because they always forget that those tier sets are not permanent. So obviously, if there is only one playstyle working and they do change the tier set, it really sucks. And that's why you need to design holistically and not like on a tier set level. I think they did rework a few spec and classes that really needed a rework and now feels a bit better. I think Assassination Rogue before the rework was not as good as right now. Outlaw Rogue, I think right now is also in a better state. I think Subtlety Rogue, although they still are only a one-shot machine and you cannot really compete as a consistent damage dealer. They are also in a better state, I think, than rework. Holy Paladin, it is now way better, like gameplay wise. It just sucks balancing wise, but in War Within, it will be better because of the balancing and because of a few hero talents here and there that is going to add a bit more flavor to the spec. Retribution Paladin, I mean, it's day and night before the 10.0.7 patch, and yes, it was busted at that point. And I was also one of the content creators that actually are and were telling that we needed a nerf, and I did play Retribution Paladin. I did enjoy my time, but it did need a nerf. Right now, it is nerfed, so it's not on the same level. We still lack the self heals, but on War Within, it does change. I think self heals are way better and on way better state for Retribution Paladin, depending on the hero talents that you're going. So that is also something. In War Within, they are reworking Frost Decays, and from what I've played, I did enjoy my time. Now I still need a rework for Enhancement Shaman. I still need a rework on the Hunter spec and Hunter classes, which is probably going to come this week. But I think overall, are we seriously talking about those little stuff? And yes, if you're like an Enhancement Shaman main and only that, I understand your pain because I do also enjoy Enhancement Shaman. But it doesn't mean that Dragonflight has been a bad expansion. It is actually probably like I said, top three. It might be even my top one expansion because it has added everything we actually wanted, and now it is just really our work to make it better. And yes, they ruined the overall MMR and how it works, and the healer MMR in Soul Shuffle, and 3v3 for some reason got like deflated. But I think that is a problem because of the player base kind of not playing anymore, and MMR needs players to be up to date. That's why they cannot really do anything to it. Healer MMR, I understand I mean, I'm playing healer as well. I'm like 2100 right now in Soul Shuffle. I understand that doing three like draws pretty much like 3-3 is not great, and also you don't really choose who you're facing. So if you're facing someone that has a lower MMR than you, you're even going to lose MMR or even CR for drawing. That sucks. But the issue is we just lack too many healers to fill the need and the demand from DPSers. And myself, I'm a DPS main. So I understand that the only way to get fast games is to have discrepancies between healers in lobbies, which in turn, since MMR does work like that way, and that is just how it is at the end of the day, um, it means that one of the healers are going to be a higher MMR than the other, and it will be very rare where both healers have the same MMR. And I guess even the queue times are longer because they want to pair those healers to like those equally MMR healers together. Um, so I think we can talk about the queue times being very long for soul shuffling for DPS players, and I understand, but that's pretty much a problem from the player base, and that's the truth behind it. So what did I do? I decided to do twos. I decided to do threes. I even decided to do some RBGs. So I tried to get my fun somewhere else. Sometimes I get like blasted. I like which I, not really in the defeat thing, but more like I don't want to play so 2v2 or 3v3. I want to play solo shuffle, and it got me irritated. But at the end of the day, it's something that the player base has to fix themselves. Like they cannot really magically make you play healer. Healer, I think, is probably the role that has been improved over time the most, because I find it way more fun than, let's say, in BFA or even in Shadowlands. You would not catch me player healer in like previous expansions, but this expansion, I feel like I can do damage. I think I can do and make teams win. And yes, some metas are a bit worse than others. Yes, I think the agency is still around DPSers in Soul Shuffle, because it's based on CC and defensives, self defensives, and healers being not that it is what it is. But I do feel like we got everything we wanted. We have Soul Shuffle, which is a solo queue system, which we always wanted. We have a vendor with easy access to conquest items. You have crafted gear, which can be on par with also PvP items. So you have also an easy time to get gear and to get better embellishments, which can add a few flavorful things without being busted. I would also say that in general, the balancing was okay to correct. It could have been better on some points, but I would say globally, if we're thinking about the expansion, I found like every single class being able to be played except a few ones. Like I said, design wise, they were terrible. But it's, I think, enough to say that Dragonflight has been a top one expansion, at least in my eyes. And if you are telling me, look, that expansion is way and above Dragonflight, I want to hear that from you. But also give me more than just say, no, Mob is better than Dragonflight, because I played Mob a lot, and I remember being kind of annoyed by the many things that were very one-shotty, were very abusive, were very OP. And yes, my class was also OP, but I still didn't like how it felt because it was just too much one-shotty. But at the end of the day, with retrospective, I did like it because that's how PvP works, and we have the same in Dragonflight. Sometimes you get one-shotted, and that's a bit infuriating, but then you are the one that is actually one-shotting someone. I mean, it is just take it and giving and trying to also embrace the fact that it is just a game based around that. As a healer, yes, you have the capacities to heal from 0 to 100%, but also not the capacity to constantly heal people that are dropping to 0% every single time. So, yeah, I mean, I think if we're summing up again, just to resume, we have Soul Shuffle system. We have now Solo QRBG system, which is going to be implemented in War Within. We have constant balancing from the first season to second season, and third season has been down, and season four season as well. And that's why I actually want Blizzard to make way shorter seasons where they actually have great balancing between seasons. We have also the fact that we have easy gearing. I feel like the gear differences between Honor and Conquest is not that big, so it doesn't mean that you're getting steamrolled. It just means like, yes, you're in a disadvantage, but you can always win depending on your comp, depending on your playstyle, depending on your skill level. I think in general, with all these things summed up, I think it is a at least top 3 expansion, but in my eyes, it might be even top 1 if I'm like discounting the nostalgia I have for Mist of Pandaria. I think Cataclysm is a good third place, and I think Walls of Draenor could be fourth place, or maybe third, depending on how you see it and which patch you're talking about. But on a vacuum, if we're thinking purely about what we have and what we had and what we kind of achieved with Dragonflight, I do feel like it's a first, like a top 1 expansion. And guess what? I think War Within will be even better because we have Social QRBG and Soul Shuffle, which realistically are going to drop the queues for both queues because we'll have way more DPSers available in solo QRBGs compared to healers. And since more DPSers are going to go for the solo QRBGs, we should have more space for DPSers in Soul Shuffle. That should be the result. Now, in theory, it is like this. Now, is it going to be in the practice? I don't know, but normally it should be. So, for people hesitating for playing War Within, you should not. I think War Within will be a great expansion. If you're thinking Dragonflight is not really a great expansion for PvP, tell me why. I think balancing has always been a problem in World of Warcraft, but I think balancing in general has always been a problem in any game, even in League of Legends. You can always have a patch with a OP champion. Balancing is always going to be continuous. It's something that they cannot drop because it is simply related to meta and an anti-meta and a counter to that anti-meta. So again, thank you for watching this video. Really appreciate you, and we will catch each other probably very soon in the next video. Have a great day. Bye.